Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Morrissey Movement. The purpose of this podcast is to discuss and share one aspect of fitness and one aspect of medicine. Being a general surgeon and a garage gym athlete, I have a strong passion for both of these aspects of life. So sit back and enjoy the show. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. I am in no way forming a patient-doctor relationship. While the aspects discussed in this podcast are medically accurate, you should always discuss with your doctor any questions that you may have about the content. You should always discuss with your doctor before starting any new exercise or dietary changes. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Dr. Chris Morrissey here for episode 5. So hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and is going to have a safe and happy New Year. We had a great Christmas at our house. My kids got way too much stuff, but anyway, they had a good time. Everybody is healthy, so that was great. So I thought I would change up my format a little bit. Typically, I know I do medical and fitness type of stuff, but I just figured since I've actually made up to 5 episodes now, I'm just going to give you just kind of my little rendition of about me. There's some of it on my website, but I decided I'd give a quick little podcast. It won't be a typical long one like some of the other ones have been, just to kind of tell you who I am and where I come from. So I'm just going to jump right into this. So I was born and raised up in Phillipsburg, Kansas, which is the kind of upper corner of the state to the west. Where we were about like 10 miles south of the Nebraska border and about 3 to 4 hours east of Colorado. Grew up in a small town of about 3,000 people. Went to grade school, junior high, and high school there. I was a multi-sport athlete. I played basketball, football. I wrestled in junior high. I was also on the track team. Loved sports, loved being in the weight room. Got in there anytime that I could. So I had a early start to fitness and athletics in my life, and it just continued through the rest of my life pretty much. So once I graduated high school, I ended up going to Fort Hays State University, which was a Division II school at the time. I was lucky enough that I received a track scholarship, and I was a sprinter for 1 year at Fort Hays State. I ran the 100 and 200 meters, also ran the 4x1 and 4x4 relay. So I really enjoyed that. I'm glad I had the opportunity to do that. Unfortunately, I was plagued with injuries. Actually, my senior year in track, I pulled my hamstring at our home meet in the 200 meter dash preliminaries, and I was pretty much done for the rest of the year. I tried to come back, but I never could really fully sprint again. And then during my college career, I had strained hamstrings and groin muscles off and on, so I decided to hang up the spikes. After a year of doing that, it just wasn't fun anymore, and I was hurt more than I was healthy, so I decided to focus on other things. So still love the opportunity that I had. I wouldn't change it for anything, but so then I decided to pursue physical education with an athletic training emphasis. So I was a student athletic trainer for 4 years. I was a trainer for the track team, the basketball team. I did football as a junior, and then cross country and other sports here and there, accumulating approximately 1,500 hours of observation and work, on top of having 2 other jobs in college. I actually worked at Applebee's, where I actually met my wife that I'm still married to 22 years later, and also worked in Trade Home Shoes in the mall. So I usually worked both jobs on the weekends and a few times during the week if time allowed. But so up until about April of my senior year, I thought I always wanted to be an athletic trainer. So I have a fairly good background in sports medicine to start with. Then I decided that I felt I wanted to do a little bit more as far as more in the medical field. So I started looking at my options. I looked at PA school. I looked at physical therapy. I looked at a few other entities, and then I decided, you know what, I'll just give med school a try. We'll see what happens. So I graduated with my undergraduate degree, bachelor's degree in physical education with athletic training. And then that summer, my wife and I actually got married, and then we moved from Hays up into a small town of Clyde, Kansas, which is close to Concordia. And I ended up taking prerequisites for medical school. And at the same time, I found a job at Republic County Hospital as a nurse's aide, and also did some on the job training of respiratory therapy eventually. But that's where I got my start into medicine, really. I took 2 years of prerequisite classes at Cloud County, including inorganic and organic chemistry, also physics 1 and 2. I did microbiology also. And then I went to K-State for a year and took a few different classes. I took genetics, which I needed for medical school, and also biochemistry, and took a few other classes for fun. Still worked almost full time while doing that. And then I had to take the dreaded NCAT exam, which is completely different now compared to what it was, the medical school admission test. I did fair on that and applied to medical school for that following fall. I was actually lucky enough that I received a letter of acceptance from, at the time, it was called the University of Health Sciences, and then the name changed to Kansas City University of Medicine and Biosciences while I was there, and actually now it has changed names again, so now it's called Kansas City University. So both my acceptance letter and my diploma is actually worthless now because those schools don't exist anymore. But anyway, so once I finished medical school, I actually started off wanting to do family practice, thinking that I would get to do a lot of different entities based off my experience at Republic County Hospital. However, it was during March of my 3rd year where I did a trauma surgery month, and actually that was the turning point for me. It was actually the second to last day of my rotation. I got lucky enough to go to the operating room. There was a gunshot wound to the chest and abdomen in an 18-year-old kid, drug deal gone bad. So I got to go back and watch that, and that really opened my eyes and turned me on to surgery and critical care. So I actually, that day, changed my mind. And so I finished my 3rd year of medical school, and then I actually took a year off and spent a year back at Kansas City at KCUMB to do a osteopathic medicine fellowship. So I spent 1 year of school learning extra and teaching and doing more things with manipulation. So I know I alluded to this on a previous podcast of the difference between MDs and DOs, but I spent another full year just working on this skill, which I am totally glad that I did it. I wouldn't change that either. So I use that quite a bit in my practice today. Then once my fellowship was over, then I went back to my 4th year where we had to do what are called audition months. So you basically kind of figure out where you want to train, and then you go do rotations at the hospitals you would like to do your training at in those specialties. So for me, I ended up doing general surgery. So I went up into the Michigan area and ended up training at Genesis Regional Medical Center up in Grand Blanc, Michigan. Had some fantastic preceptors there, and I felt it was one of the better training programs in the Midwest, especially being an osteopathic training program. So I loved my time up there. So I spent a full 5 years up there doing general surgery. And then I started looking for jobs about the middle of my 4th year. And then I signed a contract for the current hospital that I'm at, which is Republic County Hospital. William Newton Hospital down in Winfield, Kansas. So I've been here since I graduated, which is approximately 9.5 years ago. It's definitely been a roller coaster of emotions and experiences, but it's been great. Taking a little bit of backtracking, once my wife and I were married, we ended up adopting 2 of her nieces shortly after we got married. And long story on that for a different day, but so we raised them as our own, and plus we also ended up having 2 children in a short time frame as well. So by the time I started medical school, we had 4 kids, 3 girls and a boy, and then during residency we ended up having one of my other sons, Dominic. And then we decided to have one more, so then we had 6 during residency, and then we moved down here and we ended up having 3 more kids. So it's definitely been, again, a whirlwind of different things, but it's been great. I love my family, love my job for the most part on most days. So that's pretty much my medical background up to now. Since graduating, though, and since being down here, as a physician, we don't really learn very much about exercise and sleep and diet when we're in medical school. We may get a few lectures, but not very much. So I've actually taken on a lot of extra classes and courses and a lot of self-teaching through research and learning way more about fitness. So I actually, once I graduated residency, I was overweight. My diet was terrible. I'm 5'8" and I was weighing about 215 pounds. I just felt awful most of the time, secondary to eating crappy fried food and living on sugary energy drinks as a resident, trying to function and make it through. So once I came here, I decided I need to do something and get back into exercise. So basically for 5 years, I did no exercising at all other than buzzing through the hospital, running up and down stairs, doing different things throughout residency. So I decided I needed a diet first. So I will cover diets on a couple different podcasts itself. But for me, what I ended up doing, I did what was called the 17-day diet. And basically what that entails is there's 4 different cycles. Each cycle, as you guessed based off the name, is 17 days. And I ended up losing, I don't know, about 35 pounds in 3 or 4 months without really doing much exercise. And then I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to get into. And I came across CrossFit and thought that sounded pretty awesome. So I started building my garage gym, and it started off with getting a squat rack and a set of weights off of Facebook Marketplace or something, I think. And then slowly but surely I began building my gym, and it is now fairly full. I have a 2-car garage that is pretty much packed to the gills with equipment, and I also have an outdoor rig that's 15 foot on one side and approximately 10 foot on the other side. So I have a climbing rope outside, as well as a wall ball target, and then 3 to 4 pull-up bars around the rig. I also have a pegboard that's mounted to one side of it as well. So about any workout that I need to do, I can get done at home, which is awesome. So I dabbled in CrossFit for a couple of years, just found a couple different websites to get workouts from, and then ended up stumbling across the Garage Gym Athlete program, which is what I still currently do. So I started that back in 2017, I believe, and I've made tremendous progress from that. So again, not a sponsor whatsoever, but if you're interested, go ahead and check them out at www.garagegymathlete.com. You actually get 2 weeks for free to see if you like it, and then after that there's a bunch of different tracks you can jump on. So it's been phenomenal for me. So I encourage anyone looking for some sort of program that you don't really have to even think about, that they just send it to you and you do all your stuff. It's totally worth your time. So then once I got into Garage Gym Athlete, I've pretty much been faithful to that, and I've done different tracks on their program, but I've made tremendous gains and progress, and I'll talk about a few of the different things that I've done on a different podcast as well. But I just really found myself, and that's kind of my go-to place when it's been stressful or I just need to get away. I'll go out to the garage gym for about an hour and get all my work done and just feel much better after the fact. So that's kind of my hobby, so to speak. So but yeah, it's been great. Anyway, that's pretty much my story, other than I was going to also say some of the other things that I did. So during the beginning of the COVID pandemic, I actually got my personal trainer certification through ISSA, and I'm currently finishing up a health coaching program through there. I've also just spent a ton of time reading different books on nutrition and sleep, learning more about these, and I've also started doing a functional medicine fellowship, which is basically, in a nutshell, talk about how healing through food and exercise, and really focus on the pillars of health, including sleep and nutrition and exercise. So that's been a nice journey for me as well. So I'm currently trying to finish that fellowship up. So hopefully I'll get that done within another year or so, and planning on implementing that in my practice. So I'm also working on trying to get a personal training side hustle going. So in the future, once I finish everything for that, I'll definitely be dabbling in that as well, trying to find a few other more things for me to do. Anyway, I think I'm going to stop with all of that, and I'll delve into some more things later on. But thanks again for listening. Like I said, this is the 5th episode. I wasn't sure how much of this I would do. I did spike quite a few listeners, which is awesome. And if you feel like you want to give a rating, please give up to a 5-star rating and let me know how you're feel about the show. And also, please feel free to email me at any time, and I would love to tackle any topics if anybody would like to. I would be more than happy to do that. I've got a kind of a list created about things I'm going to talk about, but eventually I'll probably start running out of things, and I'm going to have to start repeating or going into things that people would like to be answered and talk about. So anyway, thanks a lot for listening today. And again, my email is themorrisseymovement@gmail.com. Please feel free to give me an email, and I'll definitely hit you back. And remember, movement is medicine.